All right, everybody. We are live here now on YouTube. And today we've got some pretty cool stuff that we're going to be talking about. A report that has been put together by OpenText. It's the 2025. Let's get some background noise there. There we go. It's the 2025 State of the MSP report that was as I mentioned, that was put on by OpenText. And we have Jason Myers, who's a cybersecurity strategist for MSP partnerships with OpenText. Jason, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Dan. Yeah, nice to be on here. Thanks for having this podcast.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And like we were mentioning before we went live here, it's great to have a fellow Michigander. You're up north in the beautiful Traverse City, beautiful area of Michigan, and try to get up there every so often. But yeah, it's great to have somebody from Michigan here as well.
So someone who can empathize with the fact I like to say it's like backwards Wizard of Oz, when it goes from color or back to black and white to color. We go from color to
Yes,
black and white here in about 3 weeks. So
yes, totally. I love that's a great analogy. And Jason, for any of our audience, if you could give a little background about yourself as well as your role at OpenText, that would be great.
yeah, right. Sure. So, like you said, I'm a cybersecurity strategist for MSPs here at OpenText. I've been with the company a little bit over a year, and prior to that, I was chief product officer for an MDR competitor. So that was kind of my wheelhouse for a while. But pretty much been in technology, engineering, cybersecurity. I joke around and say it, since the late 1900s, I've been doing this.
Well, you have a lot more hair than I do, and I would love to know your trick.
I think the state of things now it's starting to go faster than it was before, with
Yeah,
all these new sophisticated forms of attacks and everything's like that. You got to just stay on it all the time, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's jump into the kind of the background of the report. This isn't the first report that you guys have put together, and certainly won't be the last. But I'd love to hear more about what inspired you guys to develop this report, and what does it mean for you as well as what does it mean for MSPs out there as they kind of sift through it.
Yeah, so what prompted it is, we really want to get to the heart of what pain points are for MSPs, how as OpenText, as a vendor, we can help them succeed, right? And what we've really discovered kind of in a nutshell here is that the way that MSPs do business, it's completely changing. We called MSP 1.0. We're doing break fix, running some cables, maybe some phone systems, building servers, doing that kind of stuff. And a lot of MSPs still do that, and it's great. But then we kind of evolved into the SaaS model, right? Where now we're selling seats, doing software, selling seats to software solutions, which is also great because now you've kind of got a predictable revenue stream that you can pretty much count on, right? You can see where the state of your business is. But moving forward, with AI, it really that's not going to be enough anymore. So some people say MSP 3.0. I know Corey Kirkendall and Paco and Juan and those guys say MSP 5.0. They went right from Windows 8 to Windows 10 on that. I think it was Joe Rojas who coined the term BSP, which Business Solutions Provider, right?
Okay.
So so now it's going to be up to the MSP to use these tools to creatively solve problems for their customers and show them how they can open up new revenue streams and save money.
Yeah, and one of the things that we continue to talk about is the bottom line is business outcome, for our clients. 'Cause at the end of the day, they may use technology to help drive their business forward, but technology isn't their business, and their business is whatever it is, purple widgets, doesn't matter what it is, but they have different goals and objectives, a variety of goals and objectives to help take their business to the next level, to help grow their organization. And it's leveraging technology to will, at the end of the day is going to be the most important thing to help them. And if we're not having those business outcome discussions, then we're not providing the value that's needed. And we then become a commodity and we are just a service provider versus somebody that's truly there to help them grow. And we'll never get leadership in those organizations engaged with us unless we are talking about things that matter to them.
Very, very, very true. Yeah, you gotta be able to understand what the pain points are, what problems need to be solved. Dan, I don't know if you were familiar, but there was a study that came out of MIT a few weeks ago that said that like 95% of AI deployments are a failure. And it's not because the technology is bad, right?
Right. Yeah, and well, actually, that's I think a good segue. You guys, one of the main areas of your report is your findings as far as what businesses are looking for when it comes to AI, where MSPs see the opportunity. Can you kind of delve into that?
Yeah, a couple good examples. One was an MSP had solved for a restaurant group using Copilot, right? I mean, and I use this example because I feel like AI can be applied everywhere, but it's not being applied properly in most places, right? So this restaurant group, they had, I don't know, 5 locations, and the biggest pain point for the general manager was scheduling. Okay, so you can imagine with the restaurant, I don't know if you've ever been in the service industry before, but managing that's a nightmare, right? You got your cooks and your
Right.
line cuts and waiters and your bartenders, and people might not show up or they're hungover and they don't come to work. So how do you manage all that, right? So they were able to take the MSP was able to take all the availability of all their employees, and say, all right, here's when we're going to need you, and use Copilot to actually build out like a scheduling bot, right? And
Yeah.
it ended up saving the restaurant, the general manager 10 hours a week. Okay. So
Wow.
10 hours at $30 an hour, that's almost $17,000 a year that AI saved a food service industry customer.
And that really is the name of the game is, looking at what are those bottlenecks that you have? What are those challenges that you have? And if it seems weird, if it feels uncomfortable that you're asking about their business process and you're asking about, what is slowing you down, what is keeping you up at night, what is giving you a headache, what's making you pull your hair out, um, just in general about their business, if that feels awkward and uncomfortable, it shouldn't because, we look at those things and we say, okay, what do we have in our bag of tricks, technology wise, that can help them with that. And even if the answer isn't a technology tool, the value we still provide them, because let's face it, we're business owners, we're business leaders, and it's business owner to business owner or business leader to business leader, and
Yep.
there's that connection. I've said before, I've gone into quarterly business reviews that last 3 hours long, and I look back and I think, holy cow, we start talking about things that have nothing to do with technology, and the value I provided only strengthens that relationship. But when I walked out of there, I still walked out of there with a lot of project work
Right.
because I helped them solve problems.
Absolutely.
So some of the things, are there some more details as far as, AI from the report that you can share, as far as maybe some of the hesitation and, where the clients are thinking or what are they thinking and, how prepared are MSPs to assist them?
Yeah, this is a great question. So there's a few things. There's some customers that are resistant because they don't understand it, or they're, maybe a little bit wary of the security, which is legitimate, right? But here's
Yeah,
the thing. If the president of the company or the owner of the company is not using AI, guarantee probably that most of their employees are, right? So now you got a shadow AI problem. And
right.
you're going there and you're going to an open source model or a free model, and you're feeding in company secrets or company ideas. And now you're training that model on that data. You're feeding sensitive information into a public model. So I think that's one big one. Um, in that report that I was talking about, the biggest reason for AI failures is security, compliance, and governance, right? So the AI environment, whether you're using Copilot or something else, it's only as secure as your overall security posture in the first place. So that's where the MSP, I think, comes in and being able to guide that. Because I think what we see more than not is customers kind of being scared of adoption, from a security standpoint.
You know, speaking of cybersecurity, and I've been kind of holding on to this, well, only for about a week now, but as far as, and I'm looking at my phone because I took a photo of this. Um, I've been saving this for an opportune time, and this is now. I went to a physical therapist, new physical therapist for some lower back issues, and part of my paperwork that I'd assign is consent to use artificial intelligence technology and for transcription. And it has a whole checklist. There are 6 items on here that it identifies, and it talks about how they use AI in their business and things that they're doing to protect it. And it really got me thinking. That was the first time I've seen something like that because let's face it, the more deeper we get into leveraging AI, the more security risks there are, and the more that we need to have conversations about those risks and protect ourselves, like this physical therapy company has a waiver that we're signing.
And how
Any
long was
thoughts?
that document, Dan? How many pages was it?
Actually, it was just one page.
Okay.
It was a full page. You know, it just goes into acknowledging that they'll be using AI to within their practice, and it goes into how you could opt out, and you can revoke the consent. Audio recordings will be stored securely. So there's quite a few things in there because it's talking about how they're actually storing your audio, and so it gets you thinking, okay, do they, are there phones, do they have something like Otter, are they using Otter? And the thing is, when we talk about AI, it's like talking about the cloud, right? It's just one of those terms that it can mean so much or it can mean just a little bit, and using like Otter to do transcription is an AI tool, right?
Right.
So is it as simple as, they have their phone there, they're running Otter, and it's recording. We live in a state in Michigan that we don't need permission to, we don't necessarily need to ask permission to record like that, as long as one party, I don't know the real legal terms, but I think it's like a single party disclosure. I mean, as long as one party knows, and if you're the party that's recording, if you know, then it's legal. So I think every state will be different.
No, but that's interesting. I mean, if we think of AI as this one ubiquitous thing, right? That's like AI, but really AI is becoming more and more and more just a feature of products, right?
Right.
And like you said with Otter, okay, well, they're using it to transcribe your call, and I would be totally fine with that. Are they using it to take data and be able to make a more accurate diagnosis? I mean, I think that's pretty great too. But what you
Yeah.
don't want is your medical data getting leaked out on there, onto the web.
Right.
That's scary.
Yeah. And in not knowing what tools they're using, you have to have faith, right? But still, are they using something that's open source? Something that I mean, they have no two-factor, on it. Like, there's so many questions, right? If you could walk into any business and there was a stamp on their door that's a seal of approval that technology wise, they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's, that would be great. But we don't have that per se these days. And you are taking a risk at every organization you go to and the tools that they use. Um, so,
Yeah, it's interesting. We can have various compliance frameworks. We can do penetration and vulnerability assessments to, make sure that systems are solid. But you're kind of right that we don't have a way to say that this technology has a stamp of approval that it's being used, properly within those guidelines.
right, exactly. And we all know that errors happen. As a quick example that I've shared previously with our group, my dad spent 45 days in the hospital this summer with after a stroke, a heart attack, and open heart surgery, and all three facilities I walked by and witnessed unlocked and unattended workstations. Um, One of them had patient data up, and it had four pictures of patients. It showed their room number, it showed their diagnosis, it showed what their allergies were, showed who their doctor was. It had a lot of sensitive information in it. And now I have spoken to their cybersecurity compliance team about this, and they were going to be notifying the government agencies that are related to it. They were going to be notifying the patients. It was, a whole process. And but so, here's an example. These are large hospital facilities in the Grand Rapids area, and you would hope that somebody of that size has their act together and has things secure. But then you dwindle it down and you think the lower you go, if you think enterprise, it should be top notch,
100%.
super secure. And the lower you go, as far as the size of the organization, probably the weaker. That's going to be the stereotype. The weaker the security is. And so if you're dealing with a local, which let's face it, a lot of the physical therapists are local, small organizations, you think that there might be more risks there. But we'll move on from that. What are some other things in the report that you guys found that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think it's, another big one is how, how you can build like I said, we're moving from not just selling seats into being a business service provider. So we're really about how MSPs, one of the things that we found, you know, um, and you hear this as a pain point all the time, vendor sprawl, right? I mean, and
Yeah,
that's a pain point. Vendor sprawl is real. But what we found out though is that now we're kind of moving back towards you know, uh, a lot of MSPs not wanting to have all their eggs in one basket. Okay. And what
yep,
we found, it seems like the sweet spot is about 7 to 10 vendors, right? Whether that's your security stack, your accounting software, PSA tools, things like that. And so, at Open Text, we're kind of preaching this whole open ecosystem type thing, right? We're kind of going back to the days where the vendors played nice together. We all kind of work together. We integrate with just about every vendor out there. Our products
okay.
play nice with one another. So we don't want to keep we're trying to let the MSP tell us how they want to do business as opposed to saying, you know what, here's our stack. You get everything for this price and run with it, right?
Exactly. And yeah, I think the more vendors you have, the more, from a relationship perspective, the more that you need to manage,
That's very
and
true.
that consolidation. So you are finding that MSPs are looking more for that consolidated experience.
There's a sweet spot, I think. You
Okay.
know, they don't want to have all their eggs in one basket, but they don't want a separate, they don't want 20 different vendors for 20 different things, right?
Right.
But
Right.
maybe they've got certain products that they really like that they don't want to move away from, and they want to work with someone that can play nice with the stack that they already have in place, right?
Yep. So it's not an all or nothing. It's not
Exactly.
hey, I want to deal with one vendor that can handle everything, or I don't want to deal with 20 vendors. It's just that kind of that middle ground. Yeah, makes sense. Yep.
In
Um,
yeah, in service as well, right? When you're dealing with the vendors, you want to be able to people really want to be able to pick up the phone still and get a hold of somebody. And
yep.
we've seen a move away from that in certain areas, even AI being used, right? And you're like, no, 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 I want to talk to a human. I've got a problem. I need help, right? And so that's
Right.
another.
Yep. Yeah, the use of AI, for answering calls. I just saw an article recently that how a local 911 is how they've reduced the number of hours that their 911 operators are handling those non-emergency calls that are
Sure.
coming into 911. And I found that very interesting, and it's they've been able to shift that time for non-emergency calls to those real emergency calls that they're able to dedicate more and more time to them. And so it's intriguing, right? Just how that can be leveraged.
I mean, I don't, it's interesting. Yeah, you wouldn't have a problem, I guess, if the call got triaged. My cat's in a tree,
Right.
okay, we'll shift that over to AI. But if someone's trying to break into my house and it accidentally
Yeah.
goes over to the AI chatbot, I would probably get a little frustrated at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder for anybody that's live in the Zoom call, or if you're out on YouTube, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to, either jump in or throw them into chat. Um, so, I know the report was full of just a ton of areas of a wide variety. Let's kind of move on to another area that caught your eye.
Oh, great question. Like I said, AI is a big part of it. Is there any particular questions you had? I'm trying to pull something out of my head here. Go ahead and shoot away if you got something here. I'm trying to pull out the other interesting things that were in that report.
Yeah, let me grab
I had it up on
that.
my second monitor, but then I killed it because of the lighting here.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found interesting is that, customers are citing that cost savings um, have dropped, or as a primary challenge have dropped from 28% in 2023 to 17% in 2025. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean you are seeing that crunch, but then on the other side of it, the vendor prices are coming down quite a bit too, right? So there is an opportunity there to make some of that up, but yeah, there is definitely a squeeze there. And it's probably going to continue, and that's kind of why we keep going back to the BSP, the business solutions provider, right? Because the revenue is not going to come from necessarily that. It's going to come from creatively solving business problems and helping your customers, save money and time. Not to give another AI example, but like we had an example with a law firm where, what was their biggest pain point? They said it was prenuptial agreements, right? And so we helped that law firm feed, 20 years of prenuptial agreements into an AI that simply just spit out a questionnaire. All you had to do is fill out that questionnaire and you got a prenup. And I don't like to talk about AI taking people's jobs, but
Yeah,
they were able to eliminate a legal assistant, right? Something like $65,000 a year that this MSP was able to save the end customer.
that's amazing.
So it's made up for in other areas. Yeah, the squeeze is there, but I think there's going to be other
Yeah,
areas that make up to that.
exactly. And one thing that I found interesting is that referrals are a leading source of new SMB customers. It was 32%, followed by online search and digital ads, 29%, and technology marketplaces, 25%. Um, those referrals, 32%. Um, Jay, if you don't mind me picking on you, what are your thoughts on that as far as 32% of your business coming in from referrals? Do you think that falls in line or not?
I would go even higher, probably 50%.
Okay. Are you doing anything specific to encourage those referrals, or is it that you're just so damn awesome that people love you and you get them naturally? It's all organic.
I mean, I don't want to be like a door-to-door salesman type of begging for referrals type of thing, but we'll bring it up occasionally.
Okay. So you're not incentivizing them there. You're not saying, hey, I'm gonna give you a free Starbucks or $1,000,
Nah, like I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, we tried to do like a referral marketing program, and I was offering our clients 1 month revenue of what the referral would bring in, but that
Yep.
didn't work.
Yeah. We've tried that too. And we found that when you're kind of forcing the referral, it's like asking, hey, what's something new that happened this week in your MSP? And then you're kind of like you're just thinking, I don't know. So like when you're asking someone for a referral, um, they're like, well, I don't know. It really needs to happen naturally, and that's why I think it's so critical that you're every day you're focused on exceeding expectations and you're building those raving fans, so that it just happens in an organic fashion where they happen to see someone if you're operating your MSP in out of sight, out of mind type scenario where you're doing everything remotely, you're not in the face of the client, you're not doing your QBRs, TBRs on a regular basis, and they're wondering why they're paying you, you're not going to get referrals. If you're reaching out to them and having discussions, and more importantly, if you're referring business to them, then it becomes, it's a natural, mutual, and it's a mutual relationship versus what can you do for me today?
Hmm. It's one of the reasons why, I'll take on break fix clients. I hear these other guys say, "Oh, I only take on fully managed clients now, blah, blah, blah." I'll take on a break fix clients because I get referrals from them
Hmm.
Yeah,
and they're paying me. I
right.
don't have to pay Robin Robbins and all this other stuff to try and do marketing. I'll just fix a computer and then get a referral.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're absolutely right. It is a relationship based, business, right? And I think Jay's probably right. I think the number is probably higher than what the report says. I bet it probably is closer to 50%. And price is a thing. People sometimes do buy on price, but I talked to an MSP, I think it was at Exchange, and they were trying to get people in the door offering a free tier. And that wasn't working for them either, right? It's
Yeah,
not just about price, it's about the value that you provide and the relationship that you build.
yeah, absolutely. And I think Norm said he tried that as well. It didn't work well for you, Norm? No.
It
Yeah,
didn't
and
go anywhere. Didn't go anywhere. It's like you said, you really stumped them when you ask them for referrals, it seems.
right.
I, I don't know why, but I'm sure they know good referrals. They just don't spit it out.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between saying, hey, I'm looking to, expand my business. I'm looking to provide others that, the same level of service that I'm providing to you. Who do you know that can help me? Or who do you know I can help, I should say. That stumps them, and it's okay though to just plant that seed of, especially when you just had a huge win, when you just solved a big issue, especially if you're able to solve something proactively before it becomes a reactionary type scenario. Just throwing out to them, hey, Jennifer, if you have any colleagues, if you know anybody else, in your field that might be looking for our type of services, keep us in mind. So you're not necessarily asking, you're just planting that seed, just so that they remember. That I think that goes a a whole lot further in those type of scenarios.
And Dan, I don't know about you, but I've been hearing from more and more MSPs using, kind of a lightweight vulnerability assessment as a way in the door. I've been hearing more and more people talk about that to be able to go to a potential customer and say, look, I'll evaluate your setup, I'll evaluate your network and your security posture, and then coming back with that report more often than not seems to lead to new business.
Yeah, and I think the key word that you said was lightweight. I mean, I think going in there and doing some full-blown assessment, we got to value our time. We got to value what we're doing. I like to say if you're going to go in and do that type of initial assessment, do more of a red light, green light type of scenario. Maybe you have 10 questions, 10 categories, and you're going to go in there and you're going to identify whether it's a red light or a green light. It could be a yellow light too, right? Red light, yellow light, green light, where, you go through those things and it doesn't take you a ton of time, but it's enough to wet their whistle, capture their attention, and get them to say, hey, I would like to have something a little bit more in depth. You've shown us that there are some opportunities for improvement. And so let's talk more. So it doesn't have to be something that is extremely time consuming. And I think that keyword is lightweight.
100%. It doesn't have to really cost much either, right? I know inside of our secure
Yeah.
cloud platform at OpenText, we have a tool for MSPs to do a free security audit of the mic of their Microsoft environment, right?
Mm,
Say, oh, you don't have
nice.
MFA enabled. You got some weak passwords here. Like you need to plug these holes, and that's free.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you have a lot of MSPs that are using it
Oh
for
yeah,
that purpose.
yeah.
Yeah,
Is a sales tool. Absolutely. Yeah.
that's great. So was there any other data that came from that side of the referral on the referrals?
Um, yeah, like I said, I was agreeing with Jay that that number is probably a lot higher than that report indicates. And that you know, trying to buy your way through it or trying to, acquire referrals that way is generally not successful. I think those numbers are probably a little bit lower.
Gotcha. Another thing in the report, as far as service expansion, was that 95% of MSPs plan to expand their managed services offerings in the next year, and 57% are actively deploying new services. And I really think that is so critical because, if you look at what you're offering and you've been doing the same thing for the last decade or 2 decades and, nothing's really changed and things are stale, we all like new things. We all, I mean, and granted, I mean, that's not saying that you might not be adding something new to your stack, but customer facing wise, people want to see something new. They want to be able to feel like you're offering something fresh and that they're getting the latest and greatest. And even if it means that you're just painting a different picture, and making it look more fresh. Let's face it, all organizations, whether they're selling a product or service, they're constantly, new and improved, right? There's always something new. So, what are some of your thoughts in that area?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I think if you talk about just IT, like IT managed services in general, or cybersecurity managed services, I think that those three categories are expected to grow, I think 13, 15, and 17% respectively next year. Managed cybersecurity is going to be a big one. If 5 years ago, 6 years ago, a SIM and a SOAR, those were nice to have, right? Those were
Yeah,
cool tools that you could use to make your job easier. Now they're becoming a must because cybersecurity, or I mean, cyber threats are coming from a lot of different angles now, right? You've got like
right.
ransomware as a service. You've got like my mom could probably learn how to be a hacker tomorrow with one of these online, hacking as a service type platforms.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
your MDR, your EDR, your SIM, your SIEM, and your SOAR, those are tools now that like those aren't just nice to haves anymore. And I know a lot of MSPs used to offer those is kind of like their gold tier, their platinum tier. But now those things, the managed cybersecurity really needs to be a part of everyone's standard stack. And I think that's where we're
Yeah.
going to see a lot of growth next year.
Yeah, and again, as AI continues to have a stronger foothold in our client environments, that just means that the cybersecurity side of things is only going to grow as well. And so putting a new face on what you're doing, let's face it, bad actors are continuing to change their game. In fact, if anything, if we want to look to anybody to inspire us, this sounds weird, but bad actors should be inspiring us to continue to offer more new, fresh ways in which we secure our client. And if we are doing things behind the scenes, if we're changing things up in our security stack, we're continuing to grow and expand our security stack, but we are not educating our customers about this, then it's a disservice. It's a disservice to us because every time we add something new to our stack, every time that we grow and expand and make it more secure, we should be touting that. We should, especially when you're including it as part of your monthly service offering. So if you're charging, a couple $100s a month per user, then and you're adding some additional things because you've done the right thing. You've got additional margin in there to be able to each year add additional tools to your stack. Then you want to educate your clients. I've always been one in which create some branding around it. Give it, productize it, give it a name, give it a personality, give it this persona, so that people, look at that and they're like, oh, wow, this is something fresh. And, I'll go back, way back to our original days, like doing a PC format, wiping the machine clean, reloading their data and so on. We called it a PC restart. And so that's what we branded it as. And when you brand it as something like that, it sticks in their mind and they view it as a product versus just some magic behind the scenes. And there's value to that.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. You know how many PC restarts I had to do because of Napster back in the day?
Oh gosh.
Seemed like that was on a weekly basis, right? I'm like, uh-oh,
Yeah,
caught something again. Got to do a PC restart.
exactly.
But yeah, and,
Anybody?
and and you made a good point too. You might add a new tool to your stack. When you're looking at the tools that you're adding, maybe you don't have to pass that cost on to the customer. Maybe your
Right.
margin gets squeezed a little bit, but if that tool's saving a tech, 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week, then
Yes.
really you're making up for it on the other side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the key is, you have some additional margin in. If each year you have a different plan, you've got a 2025 plan, you got a 2026 plan, when you take a look at your numbers and you calculate what you're going to charge per user, you have enough margin in there to be able to add some additional tools because there's going to be something new that's going to help either allow you to be more efficient, more productive, more secure, or improve your client experience. You're going to be able to add that in. But next year, you're going to have the same type of scenario where you're still going to have enough margin in there where you can add more tools in that next year. Because the
Mm.
last thing you want to do is, keep going back to the client and saying, well, we're adding in these some new tools. And then it becomes an optional type thing. Because then they're going to say, well, I don't know if I want to spend that money. Well, I'm a firm believer of not having a variety of packages, not having a good, better, best, because especially on the security side, because if you're saying, well, Mr. Client, we've got, we got here's our secure-ish plan, and here's our secure plan.
Right.
Do you want the secure-ish plan? Okay, then great. To me, that's just wrong. I think you
Yeah.
offer a secure plan and because it's like why would you compromise? Why would you compromise on the level of security that you're gonna provide and or
I've been
you're gonna
hearing that more and more, Dan, that, if it's, you don't accept any less than you would for yourself, right? And if your customer,
Right.
I've seen MSPs say if my customer won't, if they don't like my stack, if they want to reduce it down, then they'll just let them go. Sayonara, sorry, we don't want to deal with it. But that's a great point that you bring up. I mean, you have to protect every threat vector. And
right.
if you're not, I mean, the whole idea here, I think is pretty simple, is we want to just reduce as much as possible the chances of a security incident happening, right? Minimize the blast radius if it does happen. And then you need tools and things in place to be able to recover and continue business should something happen, right? And so if you offer these lower tier packages that are secure-ish, then it could end up being a big headache and costing you a lot more money as an MSP in the long run.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions or comments from any of you guys that are here in live in Zoom?
I like the morphing that you guys did because my first experience with open text was the first class email that I have for a municipality that I handle. And then I guess what was it like 4 or 5 years ago when that got shut down?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's a great suite of products. We've been in the email business for I don't know, over 20 years now. But then there's things that aren't necessarily obvious that you don't that might not be an obvious threat, right? And one of our more interesting product offerings, I think, is our information archiving. Okay, where we're covering email, your social media, all your communication platforms. And we had an example where we had a bakery that was using that product. And you might wonder, why would a bakery do information archiving, right? And well, what happened was they do all their business on Facebook. And all of a sudden they get a letter from opposing legal counsel that says, you posted a malicious link on your Facebook page. Backup tools are good. Those are great for recovering lost data. But when you have an immutable archive, like that, they were able to go back and say, no, we actually didn't post a malicious link in our Facebook post. It
Yeah.
was someone in the comments, right? So, like I said, you got to go after every vector.
I was not aware of that service until in the last week or two. In fact, I was speaking with Mike DePalma, and I was blown away by that. That it can do, I think, what if I'm correct, Slack.
Yep.
Uh,
Google Workspace or Google Chats and whatever.
yeah,
Obviously, your email, whether it's Microsoft or Google or another provider, we
yeah,
can archiving an email as well. But yeah,
in
it's
the
it.
social media
I compare it to
platforms.
it's almost like a blockchain for communication, right? You actually can
Yeah.
see the chain of custody and how the communication actually took place.
Yeah, and what are some other use cases that you see with that type of service?
I mean, so with the email example, we were working with a financial firm, and a disgruntled financial advisor decided to make a couple of unauthorized trades on behalf of one of their customers, right? And then when that trade ultimately went sideways, now they got the customer calling the MSP, or we're gonna file a complaint with the SEC. Where I mean, they're obviously mad, right? But with this tool, they were able to go back because the disgruntled advisor said, "Well, hey, no, I sent an email. Here it is." The customer responded and said, "Yeah, go ahead with the trade." And so with that archiving tool, they were able to go back and see what communication took place and that this person actually spoofed that email to try to provide proof of, making that trade.
Mm, interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a fantastic product, and another one too that I think is a blind spot is cloud to cloud backup. We tend to think of the cloud as this secure environment now, and I didn't know this, Dan, until maybe a month ago that platforms like Salesforce, Box, Dropbox, even Microsoft, they don't guarantee their SLAs only guarantee the availability of their platform, not the data within it. So if you have
Right.
a botched Salesforce migration, or some people think of things like
Don't
Dropbox as a backup solution. They're really not.
don't say that. Don't say that very loud.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, it is amazing. I mean, people think, well, it's in the cloud, so, and it's with these major providers, so there must be redundancy,
I
right?
I
I thought,
say it to people. I tell that to people, and they think I'm just being an a-hole. Just they don't want to believe it. They just don't want to believe it.
They think it's
And it's
FUD,
it's
right?
funny what you said, Dan. The last person I said the same thing. Oh yeah, they're a big company. They make sure it's there. No, I
Right.
don't think so.
no, their SLAs state otherwise, right?
I told them that it's in the fine writing.
They
I guess
clicked I
so.
accept.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
And
They just don't.
most of the time it is. I mean, but in the cases where it doesn't happen, a cloud to cloud backup solution is going to
They
kind
don't
of
want.
save the
They don't
day.
want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And that is why that when we have a a full managed solution, we cover everything that needs to be done to protect them. Um, because then there is no risk. I shouldn't say there's no risk, because that's kind of pushing it a little hard. But you're mitigating, the issues, right? You're putting it into a position where, we've got your back. We are your trusted advisor, as much as that is an overused term. And, even 10 years ago, we called it an overused term. But we are their trusted advisor. We are there to protect them. And if we give them the option, then they have that option and they are going to pick and choose. When we make it a single solution
Hmm.
and it's all baked in, then we are protecting ourselves, we're protecting them, and we're doing what's right. And if we have developed the proper relationships and they value who we are and they have trust and faith in who we are, then they're not going to question it. They're not going to feel as if, oh, you're just trying to sell me something. And that's why, developing those relationships is so critical, and be open and honest with them, and if you're in there trying to get some new business, and if they're, for example, saying, "Oh yeah, our current provider told us this," well, maybe what their current provider told them was accurate, then I would back up that current provider. You know, we all want to try to, have them tell us things that current provider is doing and it's supposed to be wrong. It's great for us to try to win that business, but if what their current provider is doing and suggesting is the right decision and is the same thing we would do, back them up, because that just adds more value to you. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid that, well, if I say that what their current provider is suggesting is the right thing, maybe they're not going to want to do business with me. Well, if they're questioning their current provider, then there's probably more to the relationship that's wrong, and you still have an opportunity, if that makes sense. So,
You're probably going to win more business that way than you're going to lose, right? Because
right.
just kind of automatically going against what the current provider says or what their advice is. That I
Yeah.
don't think that's going to win a lot of people over, really. But I think you're
No.
right that it's probably a segue for a larger conversation, right? You could say, well, yeah, what they're suggesting is correct, but let's kind of crack in and take a look at what you're doing here.
Yeah. We only have a few minutes left here, and I do want to jump back over to another AI aspect. One of the things from your report said that less than half of the MSPs have built or deployed any kind of AI cybersecurity tools or agents for their clients. Um, and I've had this conversation before, and I'll continue to have it, is that it starts with us. It starts with us leveraging AI in our own business. It starts with us, as far as our tool set, leveraging tools that are going to be more efficient, more productive, more secure, deliver a better client experience. Because when we're out there trying to sell a variety of AI solutions, if all we're focused on is, or actually during those conversations, if they then say, well, how have you used it in your business? What are you using in your business? And we don't have any examples. You can't sell what you don't use.
100%. Yeah. And we Dan, so a couple things on that. We do at Open Text, we do a lot of road shows. I just got back from one that we did last week in Nashville, and the second day was just a co-pilot training seminar. Not just talking about co-pilot, but like
Yep.
let's get our hands dirty and see what we can do and how you can create things with co-pilot, because I think you're right. A lot of times, the MSP might not know exactly how to build these things for their customers. And I think the
Right.
other part of it is trying to figure out what their pain points are, right? And I hate to say it, but if you need a starting point, ask AI. Hey,
Yes.
what are some of the problems that AI could solve for a law firm or for an accounting firm or for a dentist? You could ask Copilot directly, and you'll get some pretty good answers out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you remember the days when, someone like a technician would, maybe come to you and say, "Hey, I need some advice on this." And your first question is, "Have you Googled it?"
Yeah.
Now, it's like, "Have you used ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, whatever? Have you done that? Have you GPT'd it?" Right? And
And
if
did
the
you,
answer is no, then come back to me after you have, right?
Right.
And because the knowledge that you can find, the answers that you can find are incredible. And and if you're afraid to ask questions, AI, whatever tool you use, isn't going to judge you.
No,
Um, right? So it's a lot easier to go that route. But you take a look at, I think even the first question is, what are some ways going on to ChatGPT, what are some ways that AI can help my MSP, right? Ask that question and and take action and just take one step at a time. You don't have to try to, take take a bigger bite than you can handle. Just little baby steps, and along the way you're going to find ways in which you can take that and correlate it over to your clients and help them in their business. And but we must take those actions and implement it ourselves first before we help others.
absolutely. And there's so many ways, yeah, within the MSP that AI can help, right? Even to getting text to be able to get to the bottom or to the root cause of a problem, AI can get there a lot quicker, right? I mean, I used to be an engineer back in the day, and we had Stack Overflow and Google Forums, and you'd search for hours trying to find answers to your problems. You can still Google for hours trying to find answers to your problems, but I couldn't imagine what it would have been like back then to have something, like AI, to have Copilot and, be able to get those answers in seconds as opposed to minutes or hours, right?
Right. Yeah, and and your report does indicate that 67% of MSPs are using it for customer support, 66% are using it for technical support and ticket triage, and 58% are using it for threat detection and response.
Yep.
And I'd have to assume that you guys are leveraging AI into many of your tools that you're offering to MSPs.
100%. Yeah, we're kind of in the beta phase right now of within our MDR platform, we've started to integrate Aviator, which is the kind of the open text AI, right? Or like you say,
Okay.
Copilot's the AI for Microsoft, Aviator's the AI for open text. And we've brought it into our MDR platform to triage alerts and give guidance on how remediation can take place. So it's saving whether it's the MSP SOC analysts or our own SOC analysts, saving a lot of time and money there.
Absolutely. And as we're working to wrap things up here, you've been very gracious in providing all this time and talent, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to give a pitch about OpenText and what you guys do, who you are, and the value that you can provide to MSPs.
Yeah, and like I said, so OpenText is a big company, been around a long time, right? We started back, I think, in the mid '80s. So it's a big company, but we've kind of on the OpenText cybersecurity side of things, we've got a real relationship built, like business with the partners that we work with. So we've got a product for just about every threat vector, whether, like we talked about email, we talked about cloud to cloud backup, we talked about threat detection and response. We've got DNS and security awareness training. And then kind of at the center of it is Microsoft. So we're the fifth largest Microsoft CSP. We were the first, actually. So, and what that means is, getting your Microsoft through OpenText. The first thing is we can definitely save you money there, right? We've got a lady, Liz, who will do a free analysis of your Microsoft environment and see where you're leaving incentives and rebates and things on the table. So we can save you money. That's almost a given. But we handle all the support. You never have to talk to Microsoft again. So we handle
Okay.
98.7% of first,
You
you
say that like you assume we can never get hold of Microsoft in the first place.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know if you like their on hold music, but we kind of take that off. We take that off your plate, right? So we've kind of got something to cover every vector, left, center, right, a boom. And I think another unique thing is that we don't have minimums. You can get one product from us. We can do bundles. We can create custom bundles for you, but no contracts, no minimums. and no credit card fees. So I think that's kind of a big one as well.
Nice. And so, Jason, I want to thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. A lot of great information, some good insights. And so thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dan.
Yeah. And the next time you see the Palmer or talk to him, tell him I said, go McMahon.
He's gonna know what that means, right?
That's
Yep.
awesome.
Right.
All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your
Thanks,
day, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Take
So
All right.
care.
long.